Most people believe apologizing early makes them look mature, reasonable, or morally superior. That belief is false and dangerously so. An apology, when offered before guilt is proven or damage is established, is not humility. It is a power concession. You are lowering your rank before anyone demanded it. Social hierarchies are not built on fairness. They are built on perception, and perception is shaped in milliseconds. When you apologize first, you frame the entire interaction through a single lens. You are already at fault, even if the other person was equally responsible or entirely wrong. You have just handed them narrative control. Here is the mechanism. Most people never see that an apology does not simply express regret. It reassigns authority. It subtly announces, I am beneath you in this moment. You may judge me. Once that signal is sent, it cannot be unheard. The other party may consciously say, no worries, but subconsciously, they register you as pliable, adjustable, safe to pressure. This is why chronic apologizers are rarely respected, even when they are competent. Their words betray their position. They negotiate against themselves before the conflict even begins. Powerful individuals do the opposite. They withhold emotional submission until facts, leverage, and outcomes are clear. They do not rush to cleanse tension. They allow discomfort to exist, and that restraint forces the other party to reveal their hand first. Silence, in moments of accusation or friction, is not weakness. It is a test. Whoever breaks it first usually loses. Premature apologies also create a psychological debt. Once you say sorry, you feel compelled to overcorrect, explaining yourself, justifying intentions, offering concessions you were never asked to make. Each addition further weakens your position. What began as a single word becomes a cascade of self-erasure. This is why manipulators bait apologies. They exaggerate offense, manufacture disappointment, or act wounded not because they are hurt, but because they want you to step down voluntarily. The moment you apologize first, the trap closes. You are no longer an equal participant. You are now managing their emotions. Machiavellian thinkers understood this centuries ago. They did not reject apologies entirely, they controlled them. An apology was used strategically, sparingly, and only when it produced a measurable advantage, never as a reflex, never as a plea for peace. Notice something important. People who hold real authority apologize less, but when they do, it carries weight, because it is rare, because it is deliberate, because it costs them something, and everyone can feel that cost. The average person apologizes to relieve anxiety. The powerful delay response to observed behavior. This chapter is not telling you to become rude, aggressive, or unaccountable. That is a misunderstanding common among the naive. This is about timing and positioning, about refusing to surrender status before the game is defined. When you stop apologizing first, something unsettling happens. Others become careful around you. They choose words more precisely. They explain themselves. They seek resolution instead of dominance, not because you demanded it, but because you didn't flinch. Respect is not granted to those who rush to soften every edge. It is enforced by those who can stand still while tension searches for a weak point and finds none. That is the hidden cost of premature apologies. And once you see it, you cannot unsee it. Asterisk, the human brain is constantly ranking. Every interaction, no matter how polite or casual, is filtered through an unconscious dominance calculus. Who leads? Who adjusts? Who yields? And the moment you apologize first, the brain of the other person makes a quiet, irreversible update. You yield under pressure. This is not opinion. It is instinct. Apologizing first activates a psychological pattern known as status displacement. You are signaling that when friction appears, your priority is not truth, leverage, or self-alignment, it is relief. You want the tension gone, and whoever wants relief more is automatically in the weaker position. Predators, social or otherwise, do not target strength. They target imbalance. When someone sees that you are willing to absorb blame quickly, they learn 3 things about you without needing evidence. You fear conflict. 2. Value harmony over position. You can be pushed with emotional pressure from that moment on. Your words are interpreted through suspicion, not respect. Even your competence becomes negotiable. Here's the deeper mechanism. Most people miss the first apology reframes memory. Once you apologize, the brain retroactively edits the story. Even neutral observers begin to remember the situation differently. The one who apologized must have been wrong otherwise. Why apologize? Logic bends to narrative, and narrative bends to power. This is why arguments often feel unwinnable once you say sorry. You are no longer debating facts. You are defending against a version of reality you helped create. First move submission also trains others how to treat you. Humans are efficient. They repeat what works. If guilt, disappointment, or silence causes you to fold, those tools will be reused more subtly, more frequently, more ruthlessly. Not because people are evil, but because systems optimize for reward. You become easy. And ease invites exploitation. Notice how people with authority behave when accused or confronted. They do not rush to defend. They do not rush to apologize. They ask questions. They pause. They let the accuser speak themselves into a corner. This forces the burden of proof outward instead of inward. Silence shifts psychological weight. The one who speaks first after tension appears is often trying to regain balance. The one who waits is often observing leverage. This is why strategic silence feels uncomfortable to most people. It goes against conditioning. From childhood, many are trained that good people apologize quickly, explain themselves, smooth things over, but that conditioning was designed for obedience, not sovereignty. In adult hierarchies, especially male-dominated ones, early apologies are read as submission rituals, not kindness, not maturity. Submission. And once submission is established, respect does not grow back easily. You can work harder, be nicer, be more competent, but the initial ranking lingers. You are remembered as the one who bent first. The Machiavellian insight is brutal but accurate. Dominance is less about aggression and more about restraint. The ability to withstand internal discomfort, guilt, anxiety, awkward silence without leaking it outward. When you stop apologizing first, people feel it immediately. Conversations slow, accusations soften, others start qualifying their words, because they sense uncertainty. And uncertainty makes people cautious. Caution is the soil where respect grows. This chapter exposes the psychological trap. Apologizing first feels moral, but it functions as self. You are not being judged for your intentions. You are being ranked by your reactions. Control your reactions and you control the frame. Every social system quietly sorts people into roles, not by what they say they value but by how they behave under pressure. When conflict appears, two archetypes emerge immediately. One becomes useful, the other becomes respected. They rarely overlap. The first is the pre-apologizer. This individual moves fast when tension appears. They explain. They soften. They apologize if and when clarity is missing. Their internal logic is simple. If I remove friction, I will be safe. What they fail to realize is that safety is not the same as status. The pre-apologizer is not hated. They are tolerated. They are described as nice, easy to work with, understanding. But these labels are not compliments in power hierarchies. They are containment strategies. They signal someone who will absorb discomfort so others don't have to. As a result, the pre-apologizer is consulted less on decisions, interrupted more often, and assigned emotional labor without authority. They are not attacked openly. They are slowly edited out. The second archetype is the calculated enforcer. This person does not rush. When tension appears, they pause. They observe. They let others speak first. They do not deny accountability, but they refuse to assume it prematurely. Their calm is not warmth. It is containment. The calculated enforcer understands something most people never learn. Silence is not empty. It is pressure. When they finally speak, their words carry weight because they were not leaked under anxiety. They do not They do not justify. They state position, then stop. This forces others to adjust around them. Notice the reversal. The pre-apologizer tries to manage emotions. The calculated enforcer lets emotions reveal intentions. Social systems respond very differently to these archetypes. The pre-apologizer is given more responsibility but less power. More work, less say. They become reliable but invisible. When things go wrong, blame drifts toward them easily because they already accepted it once before. The calculated enforcer is given space. People think before confronting them. Accusations are softened. Requests are framed carefully. Not because they are feared, but because they are unpredictable under pressure, and unpredictability commands respect. Importantly, the calculated enforcer is not loud, aggressive, or domineering. That is a caricature of power. Real authority is quiet. It does not beg to be recognized. It waits to be challenged. This archetype also understands timing. When they apologize, it is precise, rare, controlled, and because it is rare, it resets the board instead of weakening it. Their apologies close situations instead of opening new ones. The difference between these two archetypes is not morality. It is self-positioning. One signals, I will shrink to keep peace. The other signals, I will hold my ground until clarity exists. Groups instinctively elevate the second, not consciously but consistently. This is why attempts to be more confident fail for the pre-apologizer. Confidence is not posture or tone. It is the refusal to self-sacrifice your position for emotional relief. You cannot talk your way out of an archetype. You act your way into until you stop apologizing first, explaining unprompted, and absorbing blame reflexively. You will remain classified as disposable no matter how intelligent or capable you are. Archetypes are prisons unless you consciously exit them, and exiting this one requires something most people avoid at all costs. Delayed response. **** Social erasure does not happen loudly. There is no announcement, no confrontation, no dramatic fall. It happens quietly, incrementally, and always under the disguise of normalcy. By the time most people realize it's happening, their position is already gone. This is the danger of habitual self-submission. History, organizations, and social groups all follow the same rule. Those who do not defend their position are eventually replaced by those who will, not because they are better but because they are firmer. Look at any hierarchy, corporate, political, social, or familial. The individuals who apologize first, explain the most, and soften every boundary are rarely removed outright. Instead, they are bypassed. Decisions start happening without them. Information reaches them late. Their presence becomes optional. They are still included, but no longer considered. This is social death, and it often begins with a pattern that looks harmless: taking responsibility too early, absorbing blame to keep peace, letting small disrespect slide. Each instance seems insignificant. Together they form a profile. Low resistance. Human systems optimize around resistance. Water flows where the ground is soft. Power moves where friction is lowest. Once you are identified as someone who yields easily, others unconsciously begin using you as a pressure release valve. Stress, mistakes, emotional overload, these get redirected toward you, not through malice, but through instinct. You become the buffer that protects higher status individuals from accountability. This is why the pre-apologizer often feels exhausted without knowing why. They are carrying weight that was never assigned but was never refused. In history, advisors who survived courts were not the most loyal or agreeable. They were the most measured. They spoke carefully. They accepted blame only when it served them. They allowed ambiguity to protect their position. Those who rushed to please were praised, then discarded. Modern environments are no different. The language has changed, but the mechanics haven't. In workplaces, the first to apologize is often the first remembered when something fails. In relationships, the one who always concedes slowly loses leverage. In social groups, the person who never pushes back becomes invisible. Erasure is rarely aggressive. It is administrative. You stop being invited. Your opinion is acknowledged, but not acted on. Your absence goes unnoticed, and because nothing dramatic happened, you blame yourself. You think you weren't good enough, assertive enough, impressive enough. You missed the real cause. You trained people to function without respecting you. This is the Machiavellian threat most people never see coming. Power is not taken from you, it is withdrawn. Those who survive and rise understand one brutal truth: relevance must be protected. Not loudly, not emotionally, but consistently. They do not rush to accept fault. They do not volunteer themselves as the solution to every problem. They do not erase their own position to appear virtuous. They allow consequences to land where they belong. Social erasure is not a punishment. It is a response to behavior, and behavior that signals disposability will be treated accordingly. This chapter is the warning line. If you continue apologizing first, yielding early, and prioritizing emotional comfort over position, the outcome is not conflict, it is disappearance. And disappearance is far harder to reverse than confrontation. Once you understand the mechanics of erasure, the next step is not rebellion, it is recalibration. Power is not reclaimed by confrontation. Confrontation is emotional, reactive, and often signals insecurity. Authority is enforced internally first, then reflected externally. The mistake most people make at this stage is swinging to the opposite extreme, becoming cold, defensive, or hostile. That only replaces one weakness with another. True power is quieter. It is behavioral discipline. The first strategic shift is response delay. When tension appears, do nothing briefly. No apology, no explanation, no defense. This pause disrupts expectations. People are conditioned to expect emotional leakage from those they can dominate. When it doesn't come, uncertainty enters the interaction, and uncertainty forces recalculation. Silence, used correctly, is not passive. It is diagnostic. It reveals intent. Those acting in good faith will clarify themselves. Those seeking leverage will escalate. Either way, you gain information without giving any away. The second shift is selective. Accountability. You stop taking responsibility for outcomes you did not create. You acknowledge facts, not emotions. If you are at fault, you state it plainly, without self-flagellation, without justification, without urgency. This transforms accountability from submission into control. Notice the difference. Weak accountability sounds like appeasement. Strong accountability sounds like finality. One invites further pressure, the other closes the door. The third shift is boundary enforcement without explanation. Most people explain boundaries because they want approval. That defeats the purpose. A boundary explained is a boundary negotiated. A boundary stated is a boundary enforced. When you say less, people hear more. This does not mean becoming rigid or inflexible. It means refusing to over-communicate. Over-communication is often a subconscious attempt to be liked. Authority does not seek likability, it tolerates neutrality. Tolerates neutrality. Next comes emotional containment. You stop broadcasting discomfort, guilt, anxiety, hesitation. These are internal signals, not public ones. The moment they leak, they become tools in someone else's hands. Calm, even when forced, creates asymmetry. Others reveal. You observe. This is how internal authority forms, not from dominance displays, but from non-reactivity. The final strategic shift is pattern, interruption. People who are used to you apologizing first will test the change. They will push harder, act confused, frame you as different, cold, or difficult. This is not feedback, it is withdrawal symptoms. They are reacting to the loss of access. You must hold the line. No speeches, no explanations, no reversion. Authority is enforced the same way habits are broken, through consistency under pressure. Over time, something subtle happens. Interactions shift, conversations shorten, people become more precise. Disrespect decreases not because you demanded it, but because the cost of testing you increased. This is not aggression. This is self-alignment. You are no longer outsourcing your position to the emotional comfort of others. You are deciding, internally, where you stand, in letting the world adjust. This chapter is the turning point. From here, you are no longer managed by reactions. You are shaping outcomes by restraint. The next step is irreversible. At this stage, technique is no longer enough. Behavior alone cannot sustain power if the underlying identity remains intact. This is where most people fail. They try to act authoritative while still thinking like someone who needs validation. That fracture always leaks. To become untouchable, one identity must die. The identity that dies is the approval-seeker. This version of you was shaped early. It learned that safety came from being agreeable, useful, accommodating. It learned that tension was dangerous, that disappointment from others was something to be neutralized quickly. This identity equates acceptance with survival. In modern hierarchies, that identity is obsolete. Power does not respect effort, it respects alignment. Identity death is not dramatic. There is no announcement, no emotional closure. It is the quiet decision to stop betraying your position for emotional relief. You no longer ask, how will this make them feel? Before you ask, is this aligned with my authority? This internal shift changes everything. The untouchable identity does not seek to be understood. It seeks to be clear. It does not chase harmony. It tolerates friction. It does not apologize reflexively. It corrects deliberately. Most importantly, it does not negotiate its self-respect. This identity understands a brutal truth. People do not respect what is always available, always flexible, always accommodating. They respect what has structure, limits, and cost. When the approval-seeking identity dies, several behaviors disappear automatically. Over-explained emotional justifications, apologies, seeking reassurance after decisions. These behaviors don't need to be stopped. They collapse when the identity that generated them is gone. What replaces it is not arrogance. It is self-containment. The untouchable identity operates from internal authority. Decisions are made privately, then executed calmly. Feedback is processed without self-criticism is observed, not absorbed. Praise is acknowledged, not relied upon. This creates a psychological shield. People sense when you are no longer negotiating your worth. They may not articulate it, but they feel it, and feeling precedes behavior. They approach differently, speak differently, test less. Not because you demanded respect, but because there is nothing to grab onto. This is what Machiavellian thinkers meant by sovereignty, not control over others but control over self. Once that is achieved, external power becomes a byproduct. There is also a cost. Some people will fall away. Those who benefited from your old identity, your flexibility, your guilt, your availability will feel the loss. They may label you colder, distant, changed. That is confirmation, not failure. You are no longer useful in the ways that made you disposable. You are useful in ways that make you rare. Becoming untouchable does not mean becoming isolated. It means becoming selective. You decide where energy goes, who gets access, when you engage. This identity does not need to announce itself. It is recognized through absence of reaction, of explanation, of submission. Once this replacement is complete, there is no return. You cannot unsee the mechanics. You cannot unknow the cost of premature surrender. What remains is final. This is where the line is drawn. Not between good and bad, not between kind and cruel, but between those who maintain position and those who slowly vanish. Everything you've heard up to this point leads to one unavoidable conclusion. Society does not punish weakness, it removes it, quietly, efficiently, without apology. If you continue apologizing first, over-explaining, absorbing blame, and prioritizing emotional comfort over self-alignment, nothing dramatic will happen. No explosion, no confrontation. You will simply become irrelevant in rooms you once occupied. That is the real threat. People assume power is taken by force. It isn't. Power is surrendered in small moments where you chose relief over restraint, approval over position, comfort over clarity. You are making those choices every day. This chapter is not motivation. It is a final diagnostic. Look at your life honestly. Who speaks over you without consequence? Who expects you to adjust while they remain fixed? Where you apologize even when unsure you're wrong? Those are not personality traits. They are signals. And signals shape outcomes. Machiavellian law is simple and unforgiving. Those who do not protect their status are sorted downward automatically. No one needs to conspire against you. Your behavior does the work for them. That the shift you've been shown is not aggressive. It is not loud. It is not performative. It is internal authority expressed through restraint, through silence, through timing, through refusal to self-erode. This is not advice for everyone. Most people are more comfortable being liked than being respected. They will hear this and retreat. They will justify their habits as morality. They will mistake self-erasure for virtue. That is why hierarchy persists if you apply this law. Consistently delay response. Control apology. Enforce boundaries without explanation. Abandon approval seeking. The environment will change around you, not immediately, not dramatically, but permanently. And once that shift occurs, there is no return to the old identity. You cannot unknow how power actually moves. This content is not for the masses. It is for those willing to let an identity die to prevent something worse. erasure.u. Now understand the rule. The only remaining question is whether you will live as if you do.